Hello, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 5, Fraction, Decimal, and Percentage Equivalence. Lesson 7. I'll share my screen. In your previous lesson, you learned how to convert between fraction and decimal with focus on eighths and thousands. In today's lesson, you're going to work on understanding the meaning of percentage using 100 square. Okay? So, before we start, I would like to encourage you to support our mission to educate the global population of children by clicking on the like button on this video, click on the subscribe button, and click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you can benefit from them and you can also share those videos with your friends and family. Before we start, I would like you to do these retrieval practice questions. You can use 3 minutes to do it. You can work at your own pace. You don't have to stick to my timing. Okay, assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through these questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here, a quarter is equal to 25 over 100. Now, recall in one of our lessons, we learned that quarters divides 100 squares into 4 parts. Now, if you divide 100 square into 4 parts, you will have one part being 25. So if you have 100 square, and then you split 100 square into 4 parts, one part will be 25. So that's why it's 25 hundredths. Fifths divides the 100 squares into 5 equal parts. So if you have 100 square, and then you divide it into 5 equal parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one part is going to be 20 little squares. So 3/5 is 3 lots of that. So it's going to be 60 hundredths. Okay. All right. So that gives us our answer. This is 1/8. In our previous lesson, I explained a similar concept. So this is a half. That's whole lot is a half, but now this horizontal line has split it into 2 equal parts. So half of a half is a quarter. Now we have a quarter, which is this part, which again is split into 2 equal parts. So a quarter, half of a quarter is 1/8. So 1/8 is shaded. Here you're being asked again, you see there are 4 parts, but we shaded just one part, so that is 1/4. That is a quarter. Here, it may look like a difficult one, but you can see that these have been split into 2 equal parts. So if we really want to make sure we're doing the right thing, having them in the same, having the same equal size of parts, then we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 parts, but one part is shaded, so that your answer should be 1/10. Okay. All right. You can mark your work and celebrate your success. Well done. Let's do some new learning. In our first example, we're going to look at this exercise, this example here. Now, percent means 1 out of 100. So when we ask to represent this in the 100 squares as a fraction, we're going to write it as 1/100. Okay, 1 over 100. Remember, that is the same thing as 0.01. Now, because percent means out of 100, we're going to say this is 1%. Here is another example. We have 10 squares shaded around, but they're not together. They're all scattered around in the 100 square. 10/100th is the same thing as 1/10. Okay, 10/100th is the same thing as 1/10. Now, there are different ways to think about this. If we simplify this fraction, 10 over 100, we'll get 1/10. That is the same thing as 0.1. And then as a percentage, remember percentage means out of 100, this is 10%. Of course, if we put it together, that is what it should look like. Yeah. So 1/10 is same thing as 10/100ths. It's just the same way as I would say 2/10ths is same thing as 20/100ths. What about this one? Here we see that 67 squares are shaded. So we have 6 columns, which is 60, and then 7 squares. So that's 67/100ths. Of course, if we write it as a decimal, that is 0.67, and it's 67%. Why? Because percentage means out of 100. So if we have 67/100ths, 67 over 100 is 67%. What about this one? Here we see 2 rows which make 20 squares and 8 squares. That is 28/100ths. That is 0.28, and that is 28%. Why? Percentage means out of 100. So 28/100ths or 28 out of 100 is 28%. What about this one? Here we see 4 rows. Each row is equal to 10 squares. So this is 40 squares, which is 40 out of 100, which is the same thing as 4/10ths. As a decimal, it is 0.4. As a percentage, guess what? It is 40%, because percent means 40 out of 100. So 40 out of 100 is 40%. Here is a quick one for you to try. Pause the video and try these questions in 5 minutes. You may find question 4 a bit challenging, but let's see how clever you are. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through this, here are the answers. That one, we can see that we have 74 squares shaded. So we have 7 rows and 4 squares. So that is 74%. That is 74 out of 100. Here we have 3 rows, which is 30. So that's 30%. Here we have 1 row, which is 10, and 2 squares. So that is 12%. So we have 12 squares shaded all together. 12 out of 100 means 12%. This one, we have to double it because we only have 50 squares. Out of that 50 squares, 35 squares have been shaded. But remember, we express percentage out of 100. So really, if we had to express this as a fraction, it would be 35 out of 50. Well, if we want to make the denominator 100, because we are expressing it as percentage, then we can double the numerator and also double the denominator and also double the numerator. That is the same action as doubling the 50 squares to make it 100 squares. And then now we see that we have 70 squares altogether shaded because we have doubled what we had initially. That is 70%. Here, why is it 138%? We have a whole 100 squares shaded, that is 100%. And then we have 38 squares shaded from another 100 squares. So altogether, it is 138%. What about this? How would you write the following fractions as percentages? Remember, a fifth means you split the 100 squares into 5 equal parts. So fifth means 20 hundredths. Now, you remember what percentage means? It is out of 100. So a fifth will be 20%, which is the same thing as 2/10. Quarter splits the 100 squares into 25 into 4 parts, each part being 25 squares. So if we have 3 lots of that, that will be 75 squares. So 3/4 will be 75%. It's now time for you to have some practice. I have been doing a lot of talking. It's time for you to practice and then to consolidate your skills. Pause the video and answer question 1 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 1, here are the answers. Question 1, you were asked, for each 100 square, write how many squares have been shaded, then write the percentage of the square that is shaded. So here we can see that 32 squares have been shaded. It's 32 hundredths because it's 32 out of 100 squares. Your answer is 32%. Here is 51. Your answer should be 51%. Mark your work and celebrate your success. Well done. Here you're asked, what fraction of each 100 square has been shaded? So pause the video and answer question 2 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Here you were asked to write what fraction of each 100 square has been shaded. Also, you should write your answer as a percentage. Well, we can see here that 30 squares have been shaded, so that should be 30%. Here you can see that 97 has been shaded, so that should be 97%. Well, you can discuss this with your partner, how you worked out the percentages. Pause the video and answer question 3 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 3, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you were asked to shade 28% of the 100 square. Of course, 28% means 28 out of 100. So what they really want you to do is to shade 28 squares. Here, 72% will be 72 squares. Next, for question C, Danny shades 100% of the squares on a 100 grid. How many squares has she shaded? It's 100. 100% is the whole lot. So 100 out of 100 shaded. Let's look at this example. If Eva shades in 1/4 of 100 square and Mo shades in 3/10 of the same 100 square, what percentage of the 100 square is shaded? Have a think. Would you be able to do this? All right. Now, if we shade in a quarter would be 25 squares. Okay, remember what I said and we learned in our previous lesson? A quarter splits the 100 squares into 4 equal parts, which means one part, a quarter, which is a quarter, is 25 squares. 3/10 is the same thing as 30 hundredths. Okay, 30 hundredths. So if we have 25 squares plus 30 squares, it means we have 55 hundredths, which is 55%. And here is the answer for that one that I just discussed. All right. Here is this one. Tommy shades in 3/5 of 100 square and Dora shades in 13/100 of the same 100 square. What percentage of the 100 square is not shaded? So take note, this is a bit tricky. Remember, fifths splits the 100 squares into 5 equal parts. So 1/5 is 20 squares. So 3/5 will be 3 lots of that, which is 60 squares. But now we have 13/100. So 60 plus 13 will be 73. If we want to find out the parts that is not shaded as a percentage, we have to take away 73 from 100. And that gives us this result. So our answer is 27%. That's our answer. Let's look at this example. What percentage of the following diagram is shaded? Have a think. Oh, well, I'm sure you've seen that these are all triangles and we have 5 of them. So the part that is shaded is 3/5. So we'll have 3 of them shaded out of 5 parts. Now remember, fifths splits the 100 squares into 5 equal parts, of which one part comprises 20 squares. So 3/5 is 3 lots of 20 squares, which is 60. So 60 hundredths, remember percentage is out of 100, is 60%. What about these ones? Try them. All right. We see here that we have 1/4. Yeah, just one part is shaded. Why? If we want to make sure they all have equal parts, we should also split that to be of the same size. Sorry. Okay, could split that to be of the same size. Okay, and then we see that we have 4 parts, of which one is shaded. This one here, we have, okay, and a quarter is 25%. Why? Quarter splits the 100 squares into 4 equal parts. One part is 25 squares. 25 hundredths is 25 out of 100, which is 25%. And that's how we get this. So we have three squares shaded. 3/10 is 30 hundredths, which is 30%. It's now time for you to practice. What you've learned so far is you can represent percents using 100 squares. Pause the video and answer question 4 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through question 4, here are the answers. You were asked to shade 11 hundredths of the grid red and 27% of the grid blue. Remember, 27% means 27 hundredths, so 27 squares, right? So when we shade them, this is what we'll get. And then next you were asked what percentage of the percentage of the grid is not shaded. Of course, we're going to add 27 plus 11, and then we subtract whatever we get from 100. So 63 squares out of 100 is equal to 62 squares out of 100 is equal to 62%. Or we could have done it this way. Instead of counting that, we could have done 11 hundredths, which is 11%. 11% plus 27% is 38%, and we do that. So different ways to find the same solution. Pause the video and answer questions 5 and 6 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and worked through this, you worked really hard, well done. Here are the answers. Here you were asked to complete the table for the 100 squares. And by now, you should know how to count the squares. Next, you were asked, What check could you make to help you work out if you're right? Well, if you're right, all the percentage values will add up to 100%. Because remember, 100 out of 100 is 100%. Yeah, 100% is a whole lot. Yeah. Next, complete the statements. All right. So by now, you should know your fifths and quarters. Okay. So it shouldn't be a challenge for you to complete these statements. Pause the video and answer questions 7 and 8 in 3 minutes. Here are the answers, assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through this. Well done. So here you're asked to complete the table. Okay, here you're required to write them in percentage. And here they are. Take note that 20 thousandths is the same thing as 2 hundredths. So we could simplify to hundredths by dividing each, the numerator and the denominator, by 10. That makes that 2, the numerator 2, and the denominator 100. 2 out of 100 is 2%. Here we could simply make the denominator 100 by multiplying by 10, or having the knowledge that 8 tenths is 80 hundredths, and that's 80%. And here you were asked, a rectangle is made up of 50 squares, shade 46% of this rectangle. Well, if you're going to shade 46%, 46% is 46 hundredths. Now we have 50 squares. So if we halve it so that we can have 50 squares, it means we only need to shade half of that, which is 23. And you can see that's what is happening here. All right. So you have 5, 5, 10, 5, 5, 20, 23. Here, question 9, pause the video and answer the question in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the question, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you were asked what percentage of each diagram is shaded. Of course, here you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we have 7 shaded. 7 tenths is 70 hundredths, which is 70%. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we split each of these so that it's half, yeah, just the way it is. So we split each of these. So we'll have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And we only have one part shaded. So that's 1/10. Remember, 1/10 is the same thing as 10 hundredths. 10 hundredths is 10 out of 100, which is 10%. That brings us to the end of the lesson. What have we learned so far? We have learned that using 100 squares, you can represent percent with the understanding of your fifths, your quarters. Of course, you may need to understand your eighths as well. That is when you're giving some challenging questions. But remember, the fundamental understanding or concept is percentage is out of 100. So if you have 2 hundredths, that will be 2%. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.